So hello again to the home studio, SEJ II students. I wanted to provide some commentary and answers to some of the material that was issued this past week. Now it's been 5 days, and hopefully you've completed the material that was posted. And in 2 days' time, on Thursday, we'll have new material with very likely a new theme posted. So what I assigned you is page 84, number 1, and number 4 and 5 on page 85, and then page 87, 1, 3, and 4. So I want to cover that material and at least briefly touch on the assignment. So page 84 is dealing with passive constructions, and it says intend to listen and check. So now I will do the reading that provides the answers for this listening activity, which are the answers to the written element here for past construction. So number 1, I'll just read through it, honestly. It kind of tells a story, so I don't have to name the number each time. A leading private surgeon is reported to be under investigation for fraud. Dr. Martin Crispin is believed to own 3 private clinics in London. Dr. Crispin and his colleagues are said to charge up to £1,000 for a consultation. Dr. Crispin was supposed to have qualified in South Africa. He is now known never to have trained as a surgeon. His medical certificates are now assumed to be fakes. He was considered to be a specialist in cosmetic surgery. Dr. Crispin is understood to have been sued recently by 5 different patients. 2 of his colleagues are alleged to have performed surgery while drunk. The doctor and his wife are presumed to have gone into hiding this morning. So there is a lot of language here that is constructed in a passive way, and this is often the case when news is presented. It kind of protects the news agency and distances itself from direct statement. So the continuation of this was on page 85, and you have a question, what's in the news today? Coronavirus, mostly, and some other stuff, I would say. But most time it's a little bit everything, and it would be a nice discussion if we were actually in class, and then the news would not be as dominated by the coronavirus. But we'll come back to talk about the media next semester in detail, so we will not miss out on that discussion. Number 4 says, work in pairs, read the headlines and openings of the 6 articles below. What are they about? Hopefully you've had a chance to go through those. It says to underline examples of distancing the facts. So there are, and then complete the last line of each of the openings, share your ideas with the class. So as far as offering last line possibilities, that's up to you in a way. There are lots of ways to write it correctly. Then when it comes to the reporting the news element, I think that when we underline the examples of distancing the facts, then the title is often more straightforward, but then the language changes. So for example, in the first one, antibiotics are reported to. In the second one was thought, a 40-year-old man who was thought to be, number 3 p.m. to call election after no confidence vote. The government had been expected to win. Then athlete fails drugs. It says, is alleged, and that's the ending. But we don't get to know all the answer. It's up to us. In the priceless paintings one, it says, are believed to have been destroyed. And in the last one, hurricane force winds are expected to reach southern areas. So number 5 is part of your task journal assignment this week. It says choose one of the articles and complete it with your own ideas, including some constructions for distancing the facts. This is one of your assignments for the task journal. You kind of have 2 assignments here. This is the short one. It says this should be 80 to 100 words. I look forward to your creative entries here. If it was up to me and I had this assignment, I would choose fork found in man's stomach because it doesn't give us the answers, and I think there's a lot of interesting ways you could go with that. The other ones are more either dry or predictable, but you have a lot of freedom to invent details for the story, which is kind of fun, because the last sentence there says, Lee Gardner appears to have swallowed the fork 10 years ago. When? Make something up. Make an interesting story. Of course, you could choose one of the other ones. It's completely up to you. Choose one of the articles and finish it off with your own ideas using some passive constructions in the process. Let's jump over to 87. I had you do number 1. This was the other page of material, and it says match the 36 numbers on the figures to the parts of the body in the box. I'm not going to go over all of these because you can find them almost without too much effort. So I'm not going to answer number 1, but if you didn't find any, look harder and find them. You can find diagrams and descriptions of these online in millions of places, so do so. And it's straightforward. So number 3, we will go over because these are expressions, and oftentimes while you can find a word in the dictionary, you won't always find an expression in a dictionary. So number 3 says complete the sentences with the words in the box, and we are going to go over these. So it says number 1, come on, don't let it all get you down. Keep your chin up. Number 2, I tried to persuade Pete, but he dug his heels in and refused to change his mind. Hopefully we know what a heel is now. Number 3, I find it hard to stomach when politicians half my age start preaching to me. Number 4, it varies, but as a rule of thumb, I'd allow 20 minutes a mile on this walk. Number 5, the teachers in my school were pretty strict. They made us toe the line. Number 6, how dare he expect me to tidy up after him? What a cheek. That's a British one. We don't say that in America. It just sounds weird. We'd say he's a jerk. Number 7, I'm ashamed about it all, but I'm glad I've told you. I need to get it off my chest. Number 8, the boys stood on one side of the room, eyeing up the girls on the other side. Number 9, the government talks as if they're concerned about the environment, but they're just paying lip service. And number 10, these candlesticks aren't easy to clean. You'll need a bit of elbow grease. So those are some idiomatic expressions that come up quite regularly, with the exception of the cheek one. So you would want to be familiar with them. And much of their meanings are quite straightforward, and some less. So like elbow grease, basically something that takes a lot of effort. So if you're a mechanic, you would have to, really get into it, and then grease would get onto your elbow because you were working so hard. Then the last element here was number 4. And here it says, what part of your body do you use to perform these verbs? So I wanted to go over this because it's not always available in a dictionary or thesaurus, what you would use to do some of these verbs. So these are all actions. The first one is tickle. Generally, you would use your fingers. There are other options, I suppose, often an instrument like a feather. Nod, that would be your head. Thump, almost anything that can produce a loud sound. Your body can thump on the ground. I can thump on this surface. Your foot can thump on the floor. Sniff, that would be your nose. Often we use sniffing to describe animals as well, particularly dogs who are sniffing their environment. Slap would be the hand most of the time, although it's not the only option. Generally, yeah, it is the only option. Slap, backhand, forehand, or backhand slap. Backhand slap being more insulting. To swallow, well, that could, be a few different elements, but, you would say the neck and in particularly the throat. To smack. Smack is generally, it's kind of between hit and slap. So you usually would think of like smacking something with your hand, which would be like a hard slap or something between a slap and a hit. But you can also like smack your lips if you are, waiting for an appetizing entree to come. And pinch, generally we use fingers. You can also be in a pinch, which means you're kind of stuck or in a hard place. You can also pinch your eyebrows like that. To frisk, this is one of the less used verbs here, and it basically means if you've ever gone through security at an airport or seen movies or been in a situation where police are checking you for questionable devices, then they're patting you down and they're frisking you using their hands. To rub could be almost anything. I mean, rub would be an action like you rub your eye, and we often think of the hand doing this, but you can rub your head against something. You can rub, your elbow against a desk. So really, as long as you do any kind of action with prolonged contact, you can use many parts of the body. To stroke is like petting. So we often think of a stroke as, a particular medical condition, and that's another meaning for it, and that would involve, like, having a stroke would be a brain vessel popping in your head, causing brain damage, so that's one kind of stroke, and that would involve that part of the body. The other one is more like petting, like you stroke a cat who's come to be petted. Clap, I think we all know this one. You generally clap your hands, but I suppose you clap your feet if you thought that was interesting. I think some other primates do that. To nudge, this is another one where largely it's kind of like a slight bump or push, often to gain attention. So like you might, or like someone, you hear something funny and then you kind of like nudge your friend with your elbow, or you kind of nudge them with your shoulder or your elbow, and that's a nudge. You use generally those parts of your body. Pat is kind of like a slap, but not hard. And you might like pat a child's head using your hand primarily. Hug generally can involve the whole body, but we generally think of the arms, and then the closer you are to doing like bear hug, then the more of your body you might pull into the action. To squeeze, many parts of your body. You can squeeze your eyes shut, you can squeeze your mouth closed, you can squeeze things and objects with your hands and your toes. So anything where you're applying pressure, you can even a wrestling move, you could squeeze someone's head using your arm. So yeah, a lot of the body could be squeezed either through exercise or through applying pressure. To shove would largely involve usually your arms and your hands, but potentially depending on how hard you were shoving, like if you were playing American football or something, you might shove someone in an attempt to tackle them, and then you'd be using almost your entire body, your torso and your arms and your shoulders and your back muscles. But generally it's the hands. Spit, I think we know this. This would be your mouth and your tongue and your lips and your cheeks and that whole part of your body. And finally, to wink, that would be the eye. So we're not going to listen to the lines since we just went over these. So I'll only comment on your assignment this week. It was to choose something or several things that you would change when it comes to body and mind. So there are multiple times in this unit where we think about the body and mind and the health of the body and mind. And that was your assignment this week. So it goes a little bit off the direction of just body and mind and focus on health a little bit. So really, that's your assignment. I look forward to seeing your results. What you would change. Maybe you're pretty happy with yourself, but no matter how happy you are with yourself, then there's always things you can improve on. So hopefully you can find 3 things that you would like to change in your life. You write a paragraph about each, and that becomes your task drill assignment, along with the one activity that we just mentioned on page 85, where you finish one of these articles. So that's it for this week. Good luck with your assignments if you haven't finished them already. And we'll be covering new material in 2 days on Thursday. So stay safe and isolated, and we'll check in then. Bye-bye.